Well, I'm down here in my man cave workshop, and thought I'd do a video. Uh, I feel that Husqvarna is screwing their dealers, and maybe it's just a sign of the times. Maybe, I'm a relic left over from the last century, which I am. But I was out and about the other day, and I'd noticed, after the holidays, after Christmas, the chainsaw supplies at a tractor supply store, that a couple of them that I frequent. I'm always looking over their chainsaws. They carry Husqvarna. And anyway, their inventory had dwindled. And of course, now they're getting stuff in for spring, not just chainsaws, but mowers and mulch and things like that. And so let me just say from the outset that, I'm not pure as a wind-driven snow here. I bought 3 Husqvarna chainsaws in the last 12 months. And one of them came from a box store, this 435 and the 545 and this 572 XP. These two saws came from a dealer. And the reason they came from a dealer is because of 2 things. One of them is the box stores that I go see don't carry these professional saws. And but they do carry the 400 series saws. The exception to that I personally know of is Rural King. Rural King is selling the 500 series Husqvarnas. So I've just made it a point when I can to try to do business with a dealer, a small business, and it's kind of a symbiotic relationship. I buy this saw from a dealer, I buy that saw from a dealer, and if I have trouble, I can go back. There's a reasonable expectation that I'll get service. This 435 here, probably if I took that to the same Husqvarna dealer that I bought these 2 guys from, I could very well see myself last place in the line because I didn't buy the saw from them. They might do work on it, they might warranty it, that kind of thing, but because I didn't buy it from them, I'm probably going to be in the back of the line. On the other hand, I bought this at Tractor Supply, and I got a smoking deal on it because it was on clearance, and then the dealer didn't carry this. He didn't carry this saw or the 120, the 130, the 135. And so I really didn't have a whole lot of choice when it came to the dealer, but to buy this saw from, in my case, Tractor Supply. But that's just kind of the landscape here. But so I mentioned I'd been looking at the inventory levels, and so finally spring merchandise is coming in, and so I go into a Tractor Supply, and lo and behold, I see like the 440, the 450, 455, maybe 460, but then I see this saw right here, this Husqvarna 500 series saw in a Tractor Supply. And I went to the second Tractor Supply that's convenient to my location, and they didn't have one of those, but they had a space for it with a tag and the price for a 545. Now this saw, this 572 XP and that 545, they're auto-tuned. And it's my understanding that in order to do diagnostics on this thing, you can't hook it up to your home computer, download software and that kind of thing. Whether that's right or wrong or indifferent, that's just, where we're at. And you have to take it to the dealer, and they can plug them in and do software upgrades. They can do diagnostics on it. And the videos I've seen online of those diagnostics. It's amazingly comprehensive given the size. You know, you would think if it was like a car, you'd have sensors sticking out everywhere, but somehow or another, by magic, the auto-tune gathers all this data and it can be presented to the computer screen when it's plugged in. But that happens at the dealer. So what happens when you buy that 545 at the box store and not at the dealer? Or when you carry this thing into the dealer and say, I want you to, you know, upgrade the firmware on here, I want you to do this or that, is the dealer going to say, yeah, no problem, let me just slide my existing customers aside, and since you bought that from a box store and left me high and dry, I'm going to put you to the front of the line? I don't think it's going to happen that way. And so the point is that Husqvarna needs dealerships in order to service their chainsaws. And around here where I live, the Husqvarna dealers are few and far between. I mean, you have to drive like, 40, 45 miles to get to a dealer, and then further than that if you can find one, because the dealer networks have just kind of fell out over the years. And Stihl, on the other hand, in this area, there's a dealer. I mean, they're in hardware stores and things like that. Small businesses is the second thing I wanted to say. Support the dealer, support a small business. Stihl's got their saws in the small hardware stores and chainsaw shops and things like that. And there's probably within let's say a 40-mile radius, there's probably 5 Stihl dealerships. Stihl sets their prices. Everybody's got the same price. So now you're shopping on which is the best dealer. But it is a dealer and they can get parts. And I'll probably do another video just on Stihl's business model, the way I see it. But when Husqvarna decides to sell their professional saw in Tractor Supply, and this saw right here, the 572, in stores like Rural King, and I'm picking on Tractor Supply, but I'm talking about other stores. I wouldn't be surprised if Lowe's carried the 545 going into 2026. All they're doing is screwing the dealerships, the mom and pop dealerships, the small businesses that we've relied on over the years. And in my opinion, Husqvarna has a great reputation for chainsaws because of two things. They have a past history of developing some great saws, top of the line. I mean, they've had a few issues, but basically top of the line, what I call gold standard chainsaws. And then there's dealer support. There was dealer support. You go in, you bust the cover on this thing, you take it off and set it down, and for whatever reason you step on it and break it. You might go to the dealer and they can look up the part number and buy you another one, but it may be that they've got a saw that somebody straight gassed, and they can sell you that cover for pennies on the dollar. And dealers carry parts. They carry parts inventory. I know I went to a dealer one time for a chainsaw, 18-inch bar. I wanted it to be a 16-inch bar. I thought they were going to have to, call in some kind of college professor to figure out which chain would go with the 16-inch bar, because it wasn't on their cheat sheet. The saw came with an 18-inch bar and the chain that fit an 18-inch bar. They didn't have no idea what kind of links, even though I think it was printed on the side of the bar. But there's good dealers and there's bad dealers. And some dealers are inflexible. Some dealers have hours that are just completely impossible. Some dealers are difficult with returns. But for the most part, my experience over the years is the dealers have been pretty reasonable, and I've gotten along with them pretty good. And, you know, some of them strike me as your best friend when you got your wallet pried open, but when you go back to have some service done, sometimes, occasionally, they would be a dealer. And I'm not talking about chainsaw, I'm talking about other things too, but they could be difficult. So I'm not pure as a wind-driven snow when it comes to buying straight off of dealers. This one obviously came from a box store, but the dealer didn't carry this. These two came from a dealer. I'd prefer all of them were sold by the dealer, so it would help prop them up financially instead of siphoning their business off, you know, to the box store. And so, you know, shame on Husqvarna for just pulling the rug out from under the dealers and selling these professional saws in the box store. And it didn't used to be that way. It used to be that even with riding mowers and trimmers, things like that, there were certain features that were only on outdoor power equipment that were sold to dealers, and that was kind of their niche. If you wanted a little more, then, you know, a dealer was where you went. And it's too bad, because how do you make a living and keep the lights on if you're a small mom and pop dealer and you're competing with, you know, Lowe's and Tractor Supply and Rural King, and people don't know about dealers like they used to. And so let me ask you this. If you buy that 545 Husqvarna from the box store and you bring it in and you say, I want it hooked up to the computer and I want diagnostics and I want the latest firmware uploaded, do you have a high confidence that they'll have the software in the computer, and if they do, even know what to do with it? Because a lot of these box stores, the turnover is like, it's immense. You know, you can go, some of these box stores, I swear, I believe you can go into them and it's like they've opened a new store, because all the employees, or most of them, are different. And so I'm glad that I bought these two saws, the 545 and the 572 XP. I'm glad that I bought these saws from the dealer, because two things. One of them is I know I can get service, and I feel like I'm helping them live another day. This saw right here, I would probably never take this to a dealer, and the price was low enough that probably if the piston got scored or something like that, it would just get thrown in the trash can. And in some ways, I think that's what some of these manufacturers are relying on, is you buy that saw from the box store, the 545, and you score a piston, and you say, well, too bad, so sad. Throw it in the trash and buy another one. And I'm sure that's what a lot of people do. But anyway, I just wanted to make this video. I'm not happy the way things are going with regard to you know, dealers going out of business, the manufacturers not supporting them. And let me just look out into the future a little bit, because if it's truly about the bottom dollar, if it's truly about selling as many 545s as possible and not providing service to the customer through some of these box stores, let me just throw this out there, and I'll probably do a video on this. But what happens to Husqvarna when the box stores, when Home Depot, or when Lowe's, they carry Husqvarna around here, when Lowe's, Tractor Supply, Rural King, when all these box stores that sell Husqvarna, whose reputation was built on quality chainsaws and I think dealer support, at some point, you know, while we're in the process of wiping the dealers off of the map, my question is, what happens to Husqvarna, the corporation, since we're interested in the running things down to the penny And if you recall, I had a video where this saw right here didn't even come with a bar cover. I had to go buy that off eBay. So saving some money there too. So when everything's all about, you know, down to the last penny, and service is kind of excluded from that because they're really not a dealer. They're just a reseller. What happens, just throw this out here looking down in the future. What happens with Husqvarna when they say, these big box stores say, you know, we can make one more penny by selling a Chinese clone that looks like a Husqvarna. And we don't need to spend the kind of money we're spending on Husqvarna chainsaws. So we're just going to, in one stroke, we're going to reload our inventory with a clone chainsaw, and we're going to push all these things out. Who's going to sell Husqvarna? It's not going to be the dealer network because they've been wiped out. Steel is somewhat insulated from that because they got so many dealers everywhere in all these little stores. Whether they can work, whether the hardware store can work on your chainsaw or not, you know, all their eggs are not in one basket. But you think about it. If Lowe's and Tractor Supply and Rural King were to pull the plug on Husqvarna, what would that do to the company? You know, you decide. I'm just pointing it out. I think Husqvarna is screwing the dealers. And before it's over with, if it's all about the bottom dollar, and let's sell as many saws as we can at the expense of the dealers, I think it's a bad move on Husqvarna's part, and they may very well regret eliminating the dealers, pushing them out by making them compete with the big box stores. One of these days they might wish they had the dealer network back. So that's my little rant and observation, my opinion. You know, you decide. You be the judge of it. So that's the video. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you later.